Okay, so if we can start, we're going to talk about sort of IT and AI use in agriculture, sort of current and possibilities. So we can maybe give us a bit of an overview of what's possible, what's being done at the moment. I'm thinking to start with at least sort of on the fleet monitoring, that I guess the vehicle side of things, fleet monitoring, fault finding, etc. Can you give us a bit of an overview of that?
Sure, and I would like to start maybe with the prerequisite that is necessary to do this, what you just have mentioned, like fleet monitoring or predictive maintenance. And that obviously is kind of a telematics device that is mounted on the machine and transmitting information to a server, to a database, basically. And for sure, as it is with us as well, yeah, when we do our online banking, it needs to be a secure place. Yeah, it needs to build trust first. And then you can basically get used to it. So what we do basically is we take this information and give this information in the appropriate way to the farmer, which is an arable farmer, or it might be a contractor, but also to the dealer. Yeah? And what we need to think of is that basically we connect not just machines with a server, we also connect the people then working in this digital environment, and providing machine information to the operator, to the farmer, enables them to do, as you mentioned it, fleet monitoring, fleet management, knowing where are my machines at the moment, what is basically already the work progress, yeah, what is maybe the time remaining until they potentially finish the field work I assigned to my operators. But it's also for the dealers because it enables them to do remote diagnostics. It enables them to do predictive, let's say, maintenance, because when you know the engine hours of a machine, it allows you to already plan basically your workshop. You basically can help the farmer making the machine ready for the season, and also plan basically kind of maintenance before actually the high peak of the season, rather than doing it afterwards and having the risk of a failure in between. So telematics devices and the way how we exchange information has changed the way how dealers, farmers interact with each other. So they are much more closer together to basically optimize their businesses.
Okay, and in terms of the uptake of that, has the pandemic affected the interest in that? Was it already strong? Was it increased? And I'm also thinking, I believe there's a sort of online training is another opportunity, and potentially that has increased. I'm guessing if people aren't able to get to physical locations for training, then online works well.
Yeah, so interesting that you mentioned it, because for us it was also like a boost in the usage. Yeah, because in the beginning, for sure, these technologies already existed prior the pandemic. Yeah, but for sure it basically was also a push, because people had to use it to still run the business, and they then realized what kind of benefit is it, because for sure when you use things by yourself, you experience way better the benefit rather than just reading through brochures. So basically dealers were able to still assist farmers in their daily operations. So we introduced already a couple of years a technology that is called remote display access. So that means that you can see on your smartphone or on the browser version of our, let's say, digital tool, which is called Operation Center, you can see the screen of the display mounted in the cab of the tractor or the SPFH or the combine. And it enables to do remote assistance when the operator needs help. So basically these remote technologies, they bridge the distance, and the operator can ask the questions to the dealer, and the dealer can assist. And the good thing is that they don't just see the screens of the machine, they also know what's happening on the implement. So theoretically, we can also basically let someone from the implement manufacturer join this session and remotely help them to prepare, for example, the planter or the seeder to do the job precisely. This has been, so the usage has dramatically increased. On the other side, what we also see is that in general, remote diagnostics help to save costs. Yeah, that's quite an, let's say, obvious thing. If you can put yourself onto the controller of a machine to see diagnostic codes, this helps you as a service technician in the workshop to know what's going on and maybe pick already the right part with you when you go to the customer. So there's no need to go there first and see what's wrong and then go back to the workshop to pick the part and then go out to the field. So what it basically provides is uptime, and this is one of the key elements, and sometimes also purchase decisions for a customer to go for a certain brand or for a certain machine. So, and this is why the pandemic basically, we know it's a bad thing for sure. On the other side, it also showed us what already is possible with technology.
Yeah, and just in terms of the way that the dealers work with the customers, I'm intrigued because, I mean, you know, from my background, data centers, you know, in what I'd call traditional businesses, you know, the people sat there in the network operating center ready to respond to, you know, issues. Is that the same in a dealer? Will they have a dedicated person waiting to interact with any potential customer issues, or is it are there different levels of, you know, sort of agreement as to how quickly you know, people will respond to queries?
So this is up to the dealer's business and to the, let's say, service packages they want to offer. So for sure, there are different service levels available depending on the degree of technology you use on your machine and on the equipment. But it's always, let's say, up to the dealer. There are certain I would call it recommendations, yeah, also where we as a manufacturer support dealers, where we say, hey, this would make sense, but at the end it's their business decision, as many of the dealers are still family owned businesses, and that's a good thing. So we basically support them, let's say, in thinking of, okay, how can they further approach customers and make sure that they have let's say, a very good and solid customer experience. And it's also something that we realize that is also growing rapidly. We have, let's say, the ability to do something that is called expert alerts, and basically the customer can opt in and say, okay, please treat my machine special. That would mean we, John Deere, is looking at the specific machine of the customer and compare it with all the others to figure out if something will most likely happen or fail within the next, let's say, 24 hours. So which is what you described in the beginning in your first question as predictive, let's say, failure detection, to know that something will happen upfront. And once we detect something like this, we forward this directly to the dealership, and the dealer can then decide what actions he will undertake to support the farmer. Yeah. So, but this requires also, again, these special service agreements a farmer would have with the dealership.
Okay, and in terms of the actual, so we talked a lot about the sort of vehicles aspect, I suppose, but in terms of the farmer getting into the field, whether it's a combine or a tractor, if I'm right in thinking there is technology already there to help them optimize what they would be doing in the field, whether that's plowing or sowing or harvesting. And also, I know, I mean, I've got friends, you know, locally, farmers, you know, they joke that they can more or less, you know, fall asleep in their tractor cab because they, you know, everyone's talking about autonomous vehicles on the road, but, you know, in terms of agriculture, it's almost already there. Is that correct?
I would say to a certain extent, yes. Well, the journey started already 2 decades ago, where automatic steering solutions, guidance systems found their way into the agricultural business to basically optimize the, let's say the tracks in the field. So this is today like a mainstreamed solution. So the majority of arable farmers, they are aware of this technology and they use this technology today intensively. So guidance solutions, this is pretty much already, let's say, accepted and used, because you experience the benefit as soon as you don't have your hands at the steering wheel any longer. Also, we can turn the vehicle automatically, but nevertheless, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, the IT technology, the information technology, also AI, that helps to do the jobs better and faster. But at the end, for sure, they take a little bit of pressure from the operator, but it does not mean that you might need less skilled drivers. Yeah, we still rely on the operators in the cab, and they need to do a very good job. Yeah. So if you look to today's manure application, slurry spreading and manure application, you see this is a quite complex topic, because you do not just let's say apply manure. You also need to keep in mind the right amount of manure, because we don't treat, let's say, the field from an entire field perspective. We also think of zones, treating different areas in the field independently from each other with different amount of maybe nitrogen application, which would mean you also use sensors on that vehicle that measure the ingredients of manure. But you also need, let's say, a skilled driver to take care on controlling the machine, controlling basically also your booms, controlling the amount of manure you apply. So there's quite a lot of stress in the cab. Technologies that we provide and deliver make things easier, yes, but nevertheless, you need to know what you do on this machine. Autonomy is knocking at the front door, no doubt, but it also needs, let's say, acceptance from, let's say, from society. It needs acceptance, let's say, from farmers, and there are still concerns, and there's still a way to go. But you see that more and more supporting technologies are out there that helps farmers to move on with, let's say, technology adoption, I would call it, yeah, smart technology adoption, so precision farming. And well, maybe my answer is too long already, but you see that that farmers and contractors, that is what always have driven their, let's say, their forward-thinking approach, yeah, taking latest technology and making sure they use this technology not just for fun, but really to make sure they have a profitable business out of it. And coming back now to auto track, knowing that you have less tracks in the field because you use the working with more precisely, that helps you to save costs, that helps you to save fuel, less parts needed, things like that. Yeah, and this is also a monetary benefit you experience, and this drives technology adoption.
Yeah, I was going to say, I presume that, that you've mentioned obviously cost efficiency savings are a great sort of, I guess, sort of incentive, and also in this day and age, sustainability, environmental sort of benefits are potentially of interest to folks looking at the technology.
Well, you mean you mean now kind of benefits, monetary benefits coming out of this technology? Or maybe I got your question wrong. Maybe you can
no, as you say, I mean, just as you say, obviously if you're optimizing whatever the task is, you're going to hopefully save money, but also if you're optimizing yields in a field or whatever, there's an environmental benefit, or you're consuming less fuel because your vehicle is working more efficiently. Yeah,
exactly. And there are quite some aspects to it. So one is, I would say, a benefit that you can experience right ahead. So while doing this, there are other benefits you would see maybe first when you see what you have harvested. So sometimes, it's really a tough work to prepare your fields in a way that you get the best out of it. But I mean, this is the core of precision ag, that you have solutions that not just provide you with an economic benefit, but also with an ecological benefit. I mean, if you think back on, again, 20 years ago, we talked about yield mapping, yield monitoring, and yield mapping on combines. And we still do it today. The purpose why we do this did not really change. We wanted to learn from what has been done in the field this year to do maybe a better job in fertilization, in crop care, in everything you do, to have a better result in the next year. And this agronomic optimization today needs to really work, let's say, hand in hand. The agriculture is quite a complex business. If you think of an arable farmer that is not just focused on one brand. So most of the farmers, they are focused on multiple brands, because a lot of manufacturers offer a lot of good machines, so they choose the one that fits best to their business. So mixed fleets is quite a common situation. But what you need to unlock an economic and ecologic headroom is that you get information from, let's say, all these different kind of brands on your yard into one system. So that means it requires data compatibility, because different manufacturers typically use their own proprietary data formats, for example, or there is kind of a standardized data format, but you would still need maybe a USB stick to get the data to the place where you want it to have. And maybe there's a delay in the time until you get the data. And then there are situations where you have telematic devices that stream the data accordingly. So it's a complex situation, where you want to get, let's say, data in one place at the right time you need the data, to derive actions from that, to make decisions based on that. And you also want to maybe get information from not just your machines, but also from other service providers like drone suppliers or satellite information that gives you information and background on the growth potential or on the current biomass status. That basically then derives the action that you do in order, again, to do a better job, to get more yield, obviously, but also to be more sustainable in what you do. And this is also a request coming basically from society, from all of us, that we have a sustainable agriculture. But this is also the heart of Pharma, and precision ag technologies, they support you in doing this.
Okay, so in terms of where we're at, if I understood you correctly, you're suggesting that at the moment, maybe one of the sort of bottlenecks is you've got all this data from disparate sources, and it's maybe not that easy to consolidate them into one sort of useful, whether it's a database or one piece of management software. Is that right, or is it possible to, or is it a bit clunky, as you say, because you've got USB sticks and bits of streaming data here and incompatible bits of software? What's it actually look like?
Well, Philip, what you just said is, there are hurdles, and the hurdle again is making the data flow as seamless as possible, and also, let's say, across a multicolored fleet. And also, you see today that there are quite some solutions out there in the market that help farmers to overcome this. So now, if you look, one example is what we call Data Connect. This is where you see it's like a co-opetition. So this is something where we overcome the hurdle of incompatibility. Data connect means cloud to cloud communication. So you would have a manufacturer A and you would have a manufacturer B. All of these machines from both manufacturers, then the cloud, the data into their cloud solutions, and the clouds then basically talk to each other. This is what the concept of data connect is about. Yeah, making sure that the data flow is as seamless as possible. This is an initiative at the moment that you see from Class, 365 FarmNet, and also John Deere. And they basically do this already. You see other approaches in the market, like the AgriRouter, DKE, and basically, yeah, there is also this standard to exchange information between machines and precision ag displays on the tractor cabin, which is ISO XML as a data format that is more or less standardized and can be utilized by many farm management information systems. So what John Deere is doing, we have our, let's say, own cloud solution, which we call the John Deere Operations Center. That is basically an open platform to get data in different formats into that cloud. And therefore, we also had to learn the proprietary display languages from other manufacturers, but it is necessary to provide the customer with an, let's say, holistic view on their farming operation. So if you want to stay, let's say, only by your format, yeah, you will get isolated. So you need to open up, you need to learn also other languages. And that is basically what it is about. But I'm not saying that all the hurdles are overcome. There's still a way to go for all of us in the agricultural world.
And I've just thought struck me as well. I mean, farmers, you wouldn't traditionally associate farmers with being IT experts. So, I mean, what level of knowledge, or, you know, are some modern farmers having to get up to speed rapidly, or are the systems you've just been talking about relatively easy for people to use because all the clever stuff is done by yourselves, and, you know, as long as someone knows how to use a laptop or mobile, whatever, they can access it fairly easily? What's the sort of situation there?
Well, I would say, you know, it is a kind of a journey. So if you consider a situation without a pandemic, yeah, and you want to go to cinema, what you do is you download the app from the cinema. No one needs to assist you. Yeah, you can make your own reservation for a movie, and maybe you pay per PayPal. Yeah, and you know, nobody would need to assist you. It's like a consumer product. Well, if you think now what I have described a couple of minutes ago, multicolored fleets, yeah, different farm management information softwares out there, and then you have a trusted advisor, and maybe you have a dealer, and all of, let's say, this together needs to happen in a digital environment. Probably somebody needs to assist you, and getting started is sometimes also a big hurdle. I mean, try to digitalize all your information from your farm. A lot of farmers already did that, but it still is a challenge, and it might be in the future as well. So the tools we provide and we deliver, I would say, well, they are easy to use, but to get there, until you get the most out of it, until you have understood and learned the best way to use them, you have to invest time, and you need someone that assists you. So we made an enterprise market research, and we reached out to, I think it was 580 farmers across several countries, and we asked them, what is your source of information, your top number one source of information when you want to learn more about cloud solutions, farm management information systems, and apps? And number one was the dealer. It was not the company's website. It was not social media. It was, you can say this is very traditional, but it was the dealer. Because this, you know, you need a human being, a human person in front of you. You need someone who explains it to you how it works, because it's not yet I would say, a consumer product that is so super duper easy to use, because there are quite complex situations. And as a lot of farmers are different in their businesses, there are a lot of special situations, yeah, where we need to talk about to make things happen. And that is why I would say, yeah, we're on a really good path and good track. But I would say the next 5 years are pretty important, to basically get it to a point that less effort is needed to get the most out of it.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask, actually, just in sort of finishing off, in terms of that future, obviously there's a lot of technology already being used in many ways. Are there any sort of obvious things you can see that are going to be added to that, or is it, as you alluded to just then, more a question of there's a lot of good things out there already, it's just a question of educating, you know, the agricultural community how to, you know, best use that? Or say, are there going to be some, you know, more clever technology solutions in addition to that? How do you see, you know, the next few years?
Well, development will never stop, and we will see that we get information, let's say, right at hand, so without any delay, in more real time, making even faster decisions. But I think the biggest challenge for all of us, not just talking about John Deere, but for all of us, is how to basically, yeah, mainstream such solutions where your benefit is not that obvious in the first minute. You know, again, like when you think back to auto track or section control, yeah, farmers see already the benefit and experience the benefit while using it. Now, if you do agronomic optimization and you do analysis with drones, imageries, and NDVI analysis, so let's say how well a plant is doing, or if you think of soil analysis and things like that, you know, this is time consuming, and it is partially, it's costly, yeah, to do all of this. And the benefit you see maybe is at harvest first. So you know what I mean? So sometimes doing agronomic optimization, you need to have also a long brief sometimes. Yeah, it's easier to make faster decisions when it's about fleet management, but again, there are other things where it takes time. And therefore, I would say we all together need time to now mainstream what is already out there. What could we already do positive things when we imagine every farmer out there would already use the full technology stack that is available? That would be let's say, a very, very cool thing. But being realistic, it's a journey. And also we as a manufacturer, we have to understand this and learn. And that is why you also see that development is becoming more agile, so to say, yeah, not just let's say waiting until the digital product is now developed over 5 years and now ready to go. No, it's getting a lot of farmers included into the development process and making sure that they drive the development, and we look to the left and to the right and make sure that we get really to the core of their business. So I would say these are the next steps, trying to mainstream what is already out there and building up on this one. For sure, I mean, in development of John Deere, we are looking into, let's say, future solutions every day. But it will not help you if you have a very nice, super duper solution in 2 years from now and you don't have the basis where you can build up on. So we first need to, again, make sure that we have a good and solid mainstreaming to further improve, let's say, our ecological, let's say, positive footprint here and economic footprint.
Actually, I've just had one other thought. I mean, connectivity. Obviously, again, my background more sort of data centers, traditional businesses. They're often in town cities. Connectivity is great. I mean, by its very nature, agriculture is in more remote areas. Is connectivity something that needs to be improved as well to make all this happen? You mentioned obviously more like real time. So connectivity, does that need to improve, or do you think in most places the infrastructure is already sufficient for what's required?
Well, connectivity is a key enabler, as you mentioned it, to unlock, let's say, the benefits you were referring to. But I mean, John Deere took the decision in 2012, I think it was, to build in a telematics device into every tractor above a certain horsepower segment. Today, we see that this horsepower segment is basically coming down. So also the smaller machines have telematics, let's say, X factory. In general, this is still a way to go. So here another enterprise market research is coming to my mind, where we asked about how do you do data transfer, and I think it was 1,600 customers we asked, and there were still 60% saying that it's USB. Yeah, so there is still a big opportunity ahead of us to for connectivity. So let's see, but you will also see that there are different, let's say, scenarios. I mean, telematic devices today, connectivity devices, they can do so much more. It's not just transferring data from A to B and receiving data from B to A. Yeah? It's also that you open up networks in between a fleet, for example, or communicating, for example, with other devices on the machine. So it depends. Maybe also scalable approaches are needed. I mean, if you think of the turf business, maybe you would not need, let's say, the high spec telematics device that you see on a 9R tractor. Yeah. So it depends on the segments, and here there are already couple of solutions out there, and there are different solution providers that you can see on the market that basically support already today the request of having connected devices and implements and machines, and not just let's say John Deere tractors. Yeah. So this is quite a big market that will further, I think, grow, definitely. The entire retrofit business, things like that. Yeah.
And maybe just to conclude, in terms of folks looking at this technology, maybe they all are already using it, but are there one or two key pieces of advice you'd give them as to either looking at it for the first time, or they've got it and it's maybe not doing what approach do they pick a particular project, start with that, learn it, understand it, then roll it out to others, or can you sort of go straight to full on, or how do you see it?
Yeah, and basically part of the answer you already provided us, because I also consider it as a, let's say, iterative approach. So doing it step by step, rather than expecting that once you have a certain technology purchased, that you get the, let's say, the whole potential benefit out of it. So a good thing to start with is, for those customers who already use guidance systems, and this is mainstreamed a lot, as I mentioned, it's a good way to just think of, okay, can I maybe plan my guidance lines up front in a season where it's maybe not that busy? Yeah, and I can plan those guidance lines online and send them to the machine or transfer it via USB. Yeah, I tidy up my entire, let's say, mass of guidance lines that I potentially have on my display. Things like that. Start easy, learn how to work with cloud solutions, then just start getting, let's say, the documented information, your maps, your yield maps, everything that you have documented, make it visible. just see, okay, what happened, understand, okay, from a single field treatment to a zone level treatment, understand, okay, what has happened, let's say site specifically on my field. And this is a very good prerequisite then to step up from this and derive actions from this for the upcoming season. But again, with that, the learning curve will be very, very solid. And that helps you then to do the other things like agronomic optimization faster.
Okay, I mean, we covered a great amount of ground, and it's been fascinating. So, Peter, thanks very much indeed for your time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me. Thank you.